when I was there, we would go through like a ceremonial entrance. We would go into the back of the backyard and enter the labyrinth. This was right around sundown. You couldn't see the sun. And we went through a hedge maze, and the hedges were very high, so you got really disoriented very quickly. And we're like, at first you're kind of walking through it, you start picking up the pace. They're walking very hurriedly, and towards the middle of the maze, you're like running, and there's this doorway. There's like a curved doorway. I think had bricks around it. And we run through there, and the adults are like pushing me near the front, and they're like, go, 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 move, move. And it's like this cave network called an Erdstall. And there's this little hole you don't run into like basically a dead end. There's a little hole at the bottom, and they're like, go, 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 you gotta go. And so I see this hole, I'm supposed to go in this hole. Of course, I'm not crazy, like I go feet first. I'm not gonna go head first into this crazy hole. But you go feet first, and they pull you through. Like, they pull you by your feet. Now, we're all wearing these, like, Reaper coats. They were not like the brown ones that the people at the event wore. These were, like, black for some reason. And at some point, this thing comes off of you. I mean, we're naked the whole time at these events anyway, but it was a pretty weird experience because it happens over and over again. They pull you through, and then you get you back up, and they go, go again, and then it's like you're going through a maze in a cave now, and they're just like pulling you through again. And this happens like numerous times, and that's how we make our way to the basement. It's weird because we go to the house, and then we do this entrance, this elaborate way into the house again. Three Doctors was one of the worst things I've ever seen. It might not sound that bad. It wasn't the goriest thing, but it was just the creepiest thing. Okay, so it's these three guys who are real doctors who are performing a medical procedure on somebody. You can see it in this South Park episode. They actually show three doctors. It wasn't two, it wasn't four, it was three. That was the big thing that really triggered me from that episode. Three doctors, they're doing a kind of a Three Stooges thing, right? While they're actually doing a medical procedure. The first thing you notice is they're just all over the person. They're like really, it's just very overwhelming, but they're also just grinning. They have these humongous grins, and they're like hamming it up, really hamming it up, and they're not actors at all. So there's like their moment in the spotlight, and they're just taking advantage of it. They're making the most of it, but it's creepy on multiple levels. It's really hard to explain. Three Doctors is the worst. It's one of the worst things. Yeah, it's not the goriest thing, but it's bad. So here's why I liked coffins at these events. So when you're sitting in the box, you're sitting on the ground, it's hard. It's kind of like humid, hot. The lights are bright, and the sounds are the worst thing. The sounds of screaming, because you're right next to the circle. You could hear everything. You're trying to watch cartoons, but you can still hear everything. So in the coffins, it was pretty mellow. It was like the exact opposite of being out there. It was like soft and cool and quiet and dark. And the best thing is you got to like do whatever you wanted in there. I mean, they weren't telling you what to do. You're supposed to do something, and then they close the coffin, and then you're just like, whatever. The coffins aren't, what do you think? They're not those like Dracula coffins. They're all angled. They're actually just straight coffins. And I would often be in there with like a dead body, and I'm supposed to like lie on the dead body. But when they close the coffin, you could just like go off to the side, just leaning off to the side, like, like just hanging out, like that, right? Coffins are surprisingly not the worst place to be at a ritual. Pretty mellow, actually, really comfortable. On the other side, like essentially on the opposite side of where the box is, there are cages for people. And there's little cages for the Mexican girls, or the Hispanic, whatever they are, the dark-haired girls. And there's these big bird cages. for blonde women. And there'd be like 1 or 2 blonde women in them. And she's blindfolded. She's like holding on to one of the rails. I think she's chained up by her neck or something. And so they would go in and they would do like a blood hand. They would grab and pull them out backwards, the same way they pull out the Mexican girls. Oh, let's say the dark-haired girls. This is the thing about the indigenous girls too, is that the MMIWG movement, Missing Murder Indigenous Women and Girls, uses the sideways red hand. And this is from my experience, that's how they get them out of the cage. They grab them by the mouth, pull them out. They're in these little cages. These are BDSM cages. They're like torture cages. They're metal and wood. Okay, but the blonde women were in the big bird cages. These are huge. They're like 10 feet tall. So then I did this thing. It's pretty crazy. So I had a knife like this, right? And they would have you put it like right near your belly button, and I would hold it like this, right? And then an adult like my father would put his hands around my back and cover my hands. And I'm on like a box right now, so I'm raised up. The woman got her arms and legs spread out. She's like in a star shape, basically. So I would be pushed in and out of her over and over like this, into her stomach. And she would just scream every time I did this. And it was kind of like this act of basically like having sex, like missionary style sex with her. But I'm stabbing her and she's screaming. So this is why I have a problem having sexual intercourse with blonde women. And now I understand, like, oh yeah, it's probably because of all the knife sex. Again, it was me holding it below my belly button and stabbing into her stomach too. So it wasn't like actual vaginal, but my final year, one of the final events I did, I was put on the rack. This is a device that's supposed to stretch you out and pull you apart or something, but they were just submitting me. I couldn't move. I was about a 45-degree angle, maybe a little steeper than that. And this really beautiful woman, a dominatrix, performed various sexual acts on me. Oral sex. She rubbed her body on me and attempting to give me an orgasm in front of like 300 men. It was very embarrassing and it didn't work, and they just had to give up at one point. But she had a hat on that reminded me of M. Bison's hat from Street Fighter, if you know. It's kind of like but it turns out it's a Nazi. It's like a Nazi black hat. And she had, her bosoms were out. She had one of those tight garter belt, those things pulling her waist in. No pants on. She had a little Brazilian bikini wax and big boots that went all the way up to like her mid-thigh. She also had gloves on, but she took those off like halfway through this event. It was one of the least bad things they did to me, but it was pretty embarrassing. She was probably in her early 20s, like a Russian, black hair. She never looked at me though. She had the hat and the brim. It was like over her like this. I think she was kind of embarrassed. I was like less than 5 years old. She's doing this to a little kid,